night was quiet, almost too quiet. In this neighborhood, where manicured lawns met sprawling mansions, the silence felt like a held breath. A man walked home, groceries in hand, the picture of an ordinary single dad at the end of a long day. Then, a sound that shattered the peace, breaking glass, followed by the high, terrified cry of a child. It came from the largest house on the block, a place that looked more like a fortress than a home. Inside that fortress, a woman, a CEO accustomed to being in control, felt that control slipping away like sand through her fingers. She clutched her phone, her knuckles white. A shadow flickered in the periphery. A shape, dark and menacing, moved in the gloom. "Someone's breaking in," she whispered, her voice trembling. Panic seized her. She dialed security, her fingers fumbling on the screen, then scrambled to hide, praying for her daughter's safety. But the real danger wasn't the shadow she imagined. It was the acrid smell of smoke beginning to snake through the vast rooms, silent and deadly. Just as fear threatened to paralyze her, the front door, already damaged, burst open. It wasn't a thief. It was the single dad from the street. He didn't look at the expensive art or the designer furniture. His eyes were locked on a small figure, a little girl, her daughter, crawling innocently toward the grand staircase as smoke billowed from an electrical panel nearby. He didn't hesitate. He moved with a purpose that was both urgent and gentle, creating a shield with his own body between the child and the growing danger. CEO emerged from her hiding spot, her heart hammering against her ribs. All she saw was a stranger, a rough-looking man in her home, lifting her child into his arms. The primal fear of a mother erupted. "Put her down. Get away from my daughter," she screamed, her voice raw with terror and accusation. She didn't see the smoke, only the perceived threat. For a split second, the man's eyes met hers, a flicker of hurt in them, but there was no time for explanations. Flames licked up the walls, hungry and fast. The crackling sound grew into a roar. The air turned thick and black, making it impossible to breathe. Without a word, the man wrapped the little girl in his own jacket, cocooning her from the heat and smoke. He ran, not toward the door he came through, but toward a side balcony, the only escape. He navigated the chaos with an instinct that defied the panic, leaping over a railing onto the lawn below, just as the ceiling of the grand room collapsed in a shower of sparks and debris. Suddenly, the night was filled with sirens and shouting. Security guards swarmed the property, guns raised, their beams cutting through the haze. They cornered the man, who stood protectively over the small, coughing child. The CEO stumbled outside, ready to point, to accuse, to condemn. But then she froze. Her daughter wasn't crying in fear of him. She was clinging to him, her small arms wrapped tightly around his neck. Through a series of ragged coughs, the little girl looked at her mother and said the words that changed everything. "He saved me." The sun rose on a different world. The chaos of the night had given way to the calm, golden light of morning. Inside a quiet cafe, the CEO sat across from the man who had saved her daughter's life. The expensive suit was gone, replaced by a simple sweater. The fear was gone, replaced by a profound, humbling gratitude. She learned his story. Single father, just like her in that one fundamental way. A former volunteer firefighter, a man struggling to make ends meet, but rich in a currency she was only just beginning to understand: integrity. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper, thick with emotion. I thought you were here to take something, but you were here to give everything." He didn't want a reward. He didn't want a job or a check. His actions weren't a transaction. When she offered to help, it wasn't as charity, but as a gesture of deep, earned respect between two parents. Later, he walked down the street, the sun on his face, holding his own daughter's hand. A simple man, an ordinary father, an unsung hero. Because true heroes don't wear capes or seek applause. They just show up when they're needed most. Thanks for watching.